and go. Nice. Mikhail, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Thomas. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. Great that you're back. First of all, maybe I can tell you what happened since we talked last time, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, a lot of things have changed since then.
yeah, it's unbelievable how fast the world is turning. But actually, for me, like I used all the skills you showed me last time. I built an app, I built a game, I built a browser plugin. I call myself now DevTom.
Well, that is spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, and like literally before like 2 months ago, I didn't write a single line of code. It's like,
It's crazy, right? How all things changing at the speed of sound, basically. For instance, I'm now doing like 100 GitHub commits a month, although I didn't even have an account a few weeks ago.
crazy. Yeah, nice. So you're like, why is it, or how do you stay so close and up to date all the time?
Well, I mean, probably two things. One is it just scratches my itch, right? I love building things. I love tinkering with novel stuff. And secondly, it's like it's all around you. All the blogs, all the LinkedIn posts, everything. Like the informational ecosystem, it just kind of pushes you to go out and experiment. So here we are.
Yeah, nice. Today we talk about vibe coding or vibe engineering, and we especially want to look at spinning out multiple agents or a swarm of agents, right?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna dive deeper into when you actually need a swarm versus just a single multi-step agent setup, but we're gonna talk about this.
What is the main benefit? So if somebody listens at a moment, like what is the main thing why they should, like what will they go away with? Like what will be the thing?
I think it's just understanding. I will probably say that what vibe engineering is in the first place, right? So it is not just writing code for the sake of writing code. It's actually having a sort of understanding of the underlying concepts behind it and building yourself a framework that will allow you to create an enterprise ready. I'm not exaggerating this, like really an enterprise ready solution from your laptop.
Crazy. So let's dive in. I mean, there will be
Sure.
plenty of questions along the way, but basically, I'll just give it off to you and let you steer a little bit the conversation and show some stuff, right?
Yep. So let me share my screen and we will go along then. Just a sec. Yep, that should work. Do you see my screen?
1 second, it's loading. Yes, now I see your screen.
Perfect. Let me just restart the Claude Code then. Okay, just to give you a little bit of a heads up on the setup. So we talked in detail about this with Thomas before, but this is essentially an IDE with a Claude Code running in the terminal. It's a useful setup because it allows you fast access to your files on the left, and also you can tinker with cursor features on the right in case if you were just to spin out some additional agents or write some kind of plans or whatever. You can use whatever IDE you fancy. So you can use anti-gravity for it. Like the benefit would be it would allow you some extended Gemini tokens, or my personal preference is the cursor. So with that said, let's dive in. So I'm always launching Claude Code with dangerously skip permissions. For like first because I love to live dangerously, and secondly because well we have decent guardrails in place for Claude Code not to deviate too much, and I think it's important to start with that. Then we'll talk a little bit about the context usage and the agents and the skills and everything, right? While we go, so Claude MD, as I mentioned it in one of my LinkedIn posts, is a Bible. Effectively, it is a set of imperatives that allows you to control whatever Claude does while you are executing your project. So I'll quickly walk you through.
Did you create the Claude ND file for yourself and it's on your local machine and it's your rules, right? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. These are my rules, and these are mostly the problems that I personally faced during the coding phase. I'll just quickly run through run through it. But the important bit, you don't really have to make it too complex, because this is just one bit of a context that's being loaded into Claude Code. And if you make it too, I would say, verbose, right, you might create like contradictory incentives for Claude Code, so it will just ignore whatever you're saying. So keep it light, keep it short, and up to the point. But really what I wanted to get from Claude Code is, first, so it would not deviate too much from the actual specification that I gave it. For instance, like back in the Opus 4.5 era, like Opus used to half-ass a lot of things. So instead of like implementing the requirement as asked, it downgraded the requirement. Or like the kind of most famous bit is downgrading large language models, because there is a knowledge cutoff. And if you were using the most advanced tier, let's say Gemini 3.0 Pro, and Claude Code wasn't simply aware because it didn't have the references to 3.0 in its database, it immediately downgraded. Like if you had the UI problem, well, why not downgrade your LLM as we go? So it was a constant problem, and I asked it not to do it anymore. And the second kind of angle to this is I want to get more out of Claude Code. And by more means I really wanted to test whatever it's building more explicitly. And secondly, I really want to play around with the memory, and I want to control the memory myself. So every single thing that the Claude Code does, it writes in a separate work log MD, especially if it's a substantial increment. And secondly, it commits every change. And I think it's exceptionally important to have the version control, and we'll talk a little bit about it if we have the time. But what I typically do is I commit every single code change that's being made. That's why you have hundreds of GitHub commits at the end of the day. So this is
perfect. So that's just out of experience. Whenever you're annoyed of something, you write new entrance here, a new login here, and nice.
Yeah, I think we'll share the file, or we'll share the GitHub with all of this, with all of the participants after the call, so you'll be able to just copy paste it. So that's kind of the primary prerequisite. The second thing is managing your context, right? And there is such a function which is called context, just /context, and you will immediately see whatever we have here in the system. So just for the reference, I'm using the Claude Max here, and I'm using the Opus 4.6. Although you can manage and you can suggest whatever models that the Claude Code is using along the way. But this is a good setup. But from the get-go, you can already see that it's already like 25K tokens that's being used just when the Claude Code is launched. And the main reason, first of all, it has all of the system tools and system prompt, which is basically all of the JSON configs and all the imperatives that Claude Code has. I mean, if you'd like to dive in, you can, of course, like change those tools, change those prompts, make them shorter. But I tried, like, I don't really bother with it. And then the MCP tools, we're going to talk a little bit about this. You can see I have Playwright here, and I think that's probably the most important MCP that you'll need to have. And I will explain why as well. And then you can see that we have our Claude MD here, which also consumes the context and memory as we go. The thing is, right, back in the Opus 4.5 era, once you reached 200K token mark, then the quality of the results degraded significantly because it started forgetting the important details that you had in the beginning of the content. But now with 4.6, we're in a totally new era where with 250K context, it can recall minor detail in 93% of the cases. So these are the results of the needle in a haystack test that Anthropic did themselves. And it's pretty good at longer context as well, so up to 1 million. But in case you want to be on the safer side, you can always keep the log of whatever the Claude Code is doing. Then there is the auto compact buffer, and you can also manage it. You can set it up for, I don't know, 40%, 60%, whatever, whenever you want the auto compact function to be triggered. And auto compact is effectively a summarization function. You just summarize whatever, like Claude Code, whatever conversation you had with him. Although summarization also comes with the loss of fidelity of your conversation. So keep that in mind. That's why it probably is handy to have a work log alongside it. All right.
Perfect. So that's about the setup, right?
Yeah, that's the setup.
Yeah.
And then probably like once we have this handled and once we know how to manage our context, so just a quick rule of thumb, like once you hit 200K, it probably makes sense to save the work log and exit and re-enter Claude Code, just to be on the safer side, because it will probably think deeper. It will give you better quality responses and so on.
Okay, didn't know that you can observe it.
Yeah, you actually can even use this status line, right? And then you can set up the status lines however way you like it. Let's just like do it this way. Add, you can see like percentage of context that's used for the conversation. Okay. So this is a specific config that I added, but you can add whatever you want to the status line. An important thing that there are many, like a lot of like modification configs whatsoever. You just type in whatever you want to change, whatever you want to set up here in a natural language, and Claude Code will do it for you. So you don't really have to bother that much. Now going on to the juicy bit. Yes, Thomas, you had a question?
No. Let's just, like, okay, I think this is the setup, right? So now today, like you brought basically like a boilerplate project, right? So like you said, okay, let's build a UI wrapper around open router. Maybe you just give the big picture and then, like go into the juicy things like you called it.
So maybe three things. So first, this is a relatively simple project, and why we decided to prepare a boilerplate simply because it would probably take us longer than 1 hour to build it. And it really did take a little bit longer than 1 hour to build it, although it was done completely autonomously. And first things first, it was written out of just 2 lines, basically 2 sentences, which said the following: I want to have a conversational UI that would make a decision on which LLM to use, depending on the complexity of the query. All right, so if it's a simple query, let's go for some basic stuff like Llama, or if it's a query that requires complex reasoning, why not use Opus 4.6? And this was basically the whole prerequisite. Then I copied this prerequisite into Gemini, and I asked it to write a specification, a thorough specification. And you can basically see here. So it has the outline, it has the high-level architecture, it has the basic tech stack. It explicitly implies that there is an agent running underneath it that makes a decision. We call it like the smart routing logic. And then you have the technical details like database schema. So we're going to use Supabase for this, development roadmap, and so on. And then I just...
Why did you use Gemini?
Just a personal preference. You can use whatever model that you like, but I find Pro to be pretty good at plans and roadmaps and providing those technical details. So I think when you combine the powers of the two, you kind of get the best of both worlds. I mean, Opus 4.6 and Gemini.
Okay, got it.
And then what you do is basically you plug in this project MD, and then you ask the Claude Code execute the project MD fully, interrogate me on all the missing details around UX, engineering, access, safety, whatever, right? And then it will basically ask you all the questions. It will consume the specification, and it will start poking holes in it, and it will ask you all the questions that are needed. And
so when I know you are you use BMAT method beforehand as well, right? Where like the specification part is actually a little bit longer than what you did. You had just like a 2-sentence prompt into Gemini, right? And
Yeah,
then you said like, okay, ask me what's missing, basically, right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that's a better approach than, going through a quite tedious approach in BMAT where you talk to the master and the architect and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, it depends on the complexity of the project that you want to have, right? So in some cases, it probably makes sense to have like multiple agents
Mm.
in your workflow, and maybe even make them,
Mm.
debate with each other on which
Okay,
approach
yeah.
to take.
Mm.
But for this specific project, it seemed to be more than enough.
Okay, perfect. All right.
So we have the full project already built. So let's just launch it. Launch the project. Wait a second. So the project on the local host. I think it should already be running on the local host with a specific port.
Mm.
Let me just double check. No, it's not. Just let's give it like 1 minute. It
No
needs to
problem.
understand. It needs to kind of consume the context of the project,
Mm.
understand what needs to be done, and then it will spin out the local host instance of it.
Yeah.
Yep, it's running. It's called Smart Router, although I didn't come with this name.
Mm.
It's just Claude Code came with it himself. Sorry, it's a wrong one. Let me, okay. I have multiple projects.
In parallel.
Yep. Okie dokie.
So like while it's running, like it amazes me. Like you're not an engineering background, right?
No, I'm a
Yeah.
tinkerer, but
Well, but like you accumulated a lot of knowledge though, but basically by just doing and asking Cloud Code, right?
yes, exactly. That's
Yeah.
the beauty. Like if you stumble upon a technical blocker, you can just interrogate Claude Code
Yeah.
or delegate the problem to Claude Code entirely.
Yeah. That was actually fun, like the thing which was stunning for me. Like I built this app with Superbase as well and have an API to Airtable and stuff like that, but I have no idea. Like I could never do that for myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you look at this
Yeah.
project, so what it has, you can type in whatever query that you want, right? And it will make a decision automatically which model to choose. Like for instance,
Mm.
I had a conversation here, like this is like a mathematical problem that I need to be solved.
Mm.
And then the agent made a correct assumption that, well, it's probably not the simplest problem, but
Mm.
it doesn't really require complex reasoning. So I'll probably go with tier 2. You can also overwrite whichever
Mm.
model decision there is. And then
Mm.
you can also look at the dashboard, look at your consumption. So which models were used, how much did it
Mm.
cost you, how much have you saved?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't actually even thought about this dashboard when I planned the project. You have to keep in mind
Mm-hmm.
that this all was born out of just 2 sentences, like literally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and what I also did, if you look, this UI does probably remind you of something, and it was explicitly stolen from Claude AI.
Mm.
And what I asked the model to do is I asked it to go open a website and completely copy paste the entire design and UX.
Mm.
And I think it did it in a quite a good fashion.
Mm.
Uh,
So that was like in the interview part where you said like, okay, give me, like what are the missing parts for UX security and so on and so forth, right?
yeah, yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
you can even see here it made the photos of Claude. Here, I think Claude design reference.
Mm-hmm.
It scouted through the web
Ah.
page and it
Mm.
extracted the most important bits. Just copy
Mm.
pasted the entire style guide there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And how about the logic behind the most efficient token? Yeah. Did
yeah.
you come up with it? How do you know that it's actually a good algorithm behind that? Like, how do you know that's actually effective?
Like if I understood your question correctly, how do I know if the architecture that the model is choosing is the optimum, right, for the project?
Yeah, or even good, or you know,
So it's kind of I'm relying on common sense mostly here, right? Because I'm not an
mm,
engineer by trade.
mm,
And sometimes it's obvious when you see a simple UI problem
mm,
that takes maybe like 30, 40 minutes to solve, and you see Claude Code doing some complex refactoring, that is probably an overkill. However, for the majority of tasks, it takes between 6 to 8 minutes, maybe 20 minutes max to solve. So you don't really think about it that much. If it works, it works. However, like if you are like aiming for a production ready solution, there is also a workaround on how you can do this. You'll probably have to spin out an agent that would just test your entire project. That you also probably have to think about unit tests. So adding tests with every single change. So like testing the change, whether it works or not. Then running some security audits. And once you have everything in place, then you probably can roll it out to your VPS, roll it out live. So speaking about the agents, right? So I haven't done anything specific when I was building that project, but if you were to play around with specific agentic roles, it probably makes sense to give a little bit of an introduction on how the workflow is structured, right? So Claude Code by default is agentic. So it splits your project into smaller tasks and dedicates it to separate agents. Although those agents, they don't have a specific persona per se. These are just, let's say, different engineers, right? You have an ability to set up whatever agent you want, and you can do it in this way. So you can just /agents and create new agent. And then we're going to use an agent for this specific project. Then we're going to generate one with Claude Code. And let's just say, I don't know, just front-end designer.
So that's the equivalent to, like, if you have Claude Desktop, there's a skill, which is the skill creator. Yeah, and I think it does the same thing here. Basically, now it creates a MD file with the description of what it actually should do, right?
Pretty much so, yeah. Although it would not be accessible directly in the IDE, it will be hidden in the config files. And also, there is difference between agents and skills, right? Because agent is essentially a persona with a specific skill set that is constantly invoked. Or you can refer to it explicitly, say, hey, I want this task to be solved by a specific agent. And when you're talking about skills, this is a set of, let's say, tools that can be used, although they are not explicitly invoked, right? So Claude Code will make a decision himself, whether or not a certain skill needs to be used, depending on the context and depending on the problem at hand. So yeah, we're going to say for this designer role, we're going to use Opus, and we can assign a color to it. So I'll go for blue because it's very distinct. And we're going to go with the recommended setup. So you can see this is when the Claude Code needs to invoke the agent, a specific rule guide, and a specific persona definition. A light front-end designer and UI engineer with 15 years of experience crafting pixel-perfect, accessible, and performant user interfaces. So yeah. So now we have a front-end designer agent. And what we can do, it's pretty easy to invoke. Yeah, that was super easy.
Pretty fast hiring process.
Yeah, exactly.
Should we do an interview before we use him or her?
Well, let's try it out live, right? So poke holes in our existing UI using front-end designer. You can let me have the front-end designer agent review the current UI and so on. And now the front-end designer will be invoked with a specific color coding. Yeah.
A nice one.
And you see it also opened up the Playwright.
Okay.
It doesn't work here, but you can do it. I can do it with an email. So speaking about the MCPs.
Playwright, yeah.
Maybe like a few last words to kind of wrap up the agentic workflows, right? I think the important bit is you really have to understand where you actually need the agents and what type of agents do you need, because sometimes you have a very complex problem at hand and you probably need to solve it agentically, split it into smaller bits and allocate standalone agents for each one of them. And Claude Code does this amazingly. So there is a specific command which is called tasks, and you can call this. So you can call this command from your prompt query as well. You can say, hey, just split this large specification into smaller tasks and allocate each one to a subagent. What it will do, it will allocate them to subagents, and it will even manage dependencies proactively so they don't interact, so they don't conflict with each other.
Okay, but like what I don't understand is because Cloud Code has this ability inherently, right? So when do
Yes.
you decide that you actually manually interact and say, okay, you specifically, like in which cases do you specifically say, okay, use this agent please on top of your own
Yeah.
abilities?
So the thing is, it's Cloud Code is stochastic, so you don't really know with a 100% certainty that it's gonna go agentic on the problem
Mm,
that you wanted to solve. It
mm,
might just use a single agent and a single tool. That was
mm,
specifically the problem in the Opus 4.5 era. But
mm,
now with Opus 4.6, it's like biasing towards multiple agents all the time,
mm,
pretty much. So it might be less of a problem, right?
mm,
Um, and sometimes you need to do exactly the opposite, right? So you have
mm,
a simple problem at hand, and you don't really want to waste, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of tokens on it.
mm,
And that was the case when instead of just changing a few lines of CSS code, the agent started refactoring the entire project, the entire
mm,
UI from the scratch. And this is something that you
mm,
really want to avoid. It's also possible.
mm,
And you can do it by setting up the I call this level of smart.
mm,
So you can assign like how smart the model would be for a specific task at hand. Let me see if I can show it here.
mm.
Well, my agent is actually quite busy at the moment.
Poking
So
some holes.
let me see if I can actually log in here. I'm logged in here. I'm just using a standalone browser for Cloud Code to play around with not that much of an access granted.
Mm,
So
mm,
let's just stop this, right? And
mm.
we can show something else because as you see, it might take a
Sometimes,
while. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Got stuck a bit, but it's okay. It happens sometimes.
yeah, yes. So, let me see. Where are we? Front-end designer. So basically,
Yeah.
yeah, like I can see that, like you want to involve like specific roles when you have
Yeah.
specific challenges. Yeah. So review the architecture, tell me how our code works, as a, from product perspective, please tell me how our functionality XYZ works at the moment, how is the software structured at the moment, review the front end. And by the way, I had an amazing example for that, right? So we had a hackathon at a company in Germany, and then, like one just, took the GitHub repository and said, okay, like how is our website currently working, right? What happens
Yeah.
if you use this button, right? And
Yeah.
it explains how it works today, right? And then
Yeah.
we also brought in a UX expert and said like, okay, like give me some ideas how I could improve the usability. And, like out of 7 suggestions, I would have rated 3 really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 3, I would have said, not sure if this is impact, and the rest of it was,
But that sounds like the
something in
result that
between.
you would get from a real life front end reviewer, like,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah,
more or
yeah,
less
exactly.
50-50.
Yeah, yeah. So, but
Oh, you
when
can
you
see.
like, is that the main difference? To use the different agents from, vibe coding to vibe engineering, because vibe coding you just have like lovable, right? 2
Yeah.
sentences and then you let it just run, right?
Yeah. So like vibe, I would say like vibe engineering and especially assigning specific roles to your team.
Mm,
It has like 2 applications. So first, you really want to be when you're creating a custom tailored project, and you want to
mm,
have a specific depth in certain area. I don't know,
mm,
say like you want to have better design accessibility than
mm,
what you get from a boilerplate project in Lovable.
mm,
Or alternatively, if you want to create, if you want to do something complex or or not engineering at all, not engineering related. Like one good example that I've seen was a guy has created a whole VC board with a set of agents. So like he basically throws an idea or a business model onto this VC board, and then multiple agentic personas, they start reviewing and critiquing each other and coming up with a go or no go decision at the end of the day. So you can basically take it in whatever direction you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see like what it came up with. All with errors leave users stranded, muted text fails, contrast, sidebar chat items, no mobile sidebar behavior. Well, I mean, these are pretty good comments, taking everything in consideration. No, we're not gonna fix any of those because we will not have the time.
Yeah.
But speaking, going back to the levels of smart, right? So you can see that by default, if you type in /model, so it uses the most complex model, which is Opus 4.6. And the problem with Opus 4.6, even though it's like probably the smartest model in the world, it biases towards more complex solutions. So it can over-engineer certain things, and it will, of course, take longer. And you can adjust this if you want, right? So if you have a simple problem at hand and you know that it's simple, then you can just use your keyboard arrows and set it to low effort instead of like high effort as it's set by default. I'm not using any other models at all. However, I've seen that in the new agentic workflows, Claude Code is making a decision on which specific model to assign to a specific task. You can also set it up and say, but hey, I want to use Opus 4.6 everywhere in every single task that you're basically spinning out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all with the model. I think the next important bit is the MCPs. Right, so we spoke about the context, the agentic workflows, the agents themselves, and MCP is essentially a connector to whatever tool you have that you want to enable Claude Code to interact with it. So the one that I'm using probably most of the time is Playwright. You can see that I have Slack, which I tried to connect unsuccessfully, and then I have Playwright available. And what Playwright is? Well, Playwright is essentially a browser.
Mikhail, could you make the font a little bit bigger that people can read it better?
Yeah, sure. How about now?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, even better. Yeah. Thank you.
Let me try it again. So we're going with MCPs. Yeah, we're going with MCPs, and the one MCP that I'm using most of the time is called Playwright, and Playwright is essentially a browser, and it has two modes. So one mode is it's full-blown on browser, like a Chrome, and another one is headless. What headless means is that it will create an instance of a browser that will be invisible to you. It is especially effective when you want to launch a browser on a server, right? And you want to access a certain website, and many websites they have bot protection. So you probably would not be able to query them using simple HTTP. So you'll need something like Playwright. But the biggest use case for Playwright is that it allows you to create pixel perfect design. The thing is, how we're doing this. Open our project in Playwright and wait for my instructions.
Okay.
This is one of the shortcomings of Claude Code. It's not great at pixel perfect design from the get-go. So yeah, you can see that it's the same project basically. And if you want to do like some minor changes, I don't know, just like change, I don't know, add shadows, for instance.
Yeah, or like have like this is one of the limitations many people in an existing environment struggle with. Yeah, how can I use these tools and have the same design website for?
Yeah. So it will do like you see more prominent shadows were already added. But that's just one use case. Another use case, you can ask it to open any website.
But
Let's
now I
say,
don't get it. Like, this is the local host. Like, what is where is Playwright here? What is it doing?
Playwright is essentially a connector. It connects to your Chrome browser.
Okay.
And we're not using it in a headless mode, so it explicitly opens a Chrome browser, and it allows Claude Code to get access to whatever is seen in the actual browser.
So it basically can observe what is in the browser.
Yep.
And can see it. Yeah.
Yes.
And you use that in order, I mean, if you said like now the prompt was shadows, put shadows on there, it would have done shadows as well, like without Playwright. Like, what's the specific thing? What's the superpower Playwright gives me?
So the thing is, right, the longer you work on a project and the more specific your work becomes, the more control you'd want to have, right? So if you simply prompt it, it might not get what you want. In our case, it has been like relatively simple. But if you have a complex project with a complex style guide, multiple conflicting element, they will confuse Claude Code, and you will simply not be able to prompt it. However, if you give a hint to Claude and say, "Hey, look at the top left side of the screen. You see a button there, right, or whatever. I want you to do this specific thing to it." And it will comply with your instruction more carefully, because the inputs from the Playwright browser would be used as context for whatever query at hand.
Do you have experience with a style guide, design guide from companies? Like, what's the best way to inject it into Claude Code?
So the best way to inject it is you can ask. You can download a style guide, right, an existing style guide, or you can extract the style guide from any website you want. So in this case, I also used Playwright to basically steal the style guide from Claude AI and write it in a CSS format. The next logical step for me would be to write a style guide MD file and write an imperative in Claude MD so that every new change or every new function that is added is explicitly compliant with the style guide, so it will not deviate too much. And it will not add any random gradients in the places where gradients are not needed.
Yeah. I think there is also a possibility to use everything you have in Figma, upload it somehow to GitHub, and then use the GitHub repo to tell Cursor. I heard about it, but I never done it myself. So, because
you can have an MCP with Figma if you want, and just extract the mockups from Figma and allow Claude Code to code them simply.
Yeah. Okay.
Another angle to Playwright is you can use it as your personal assistant, although it's a little bit outside of coding. But what I typically do, I give it access to my calendar, I give it access to my Gmail account. And if I want to set up a complex meeting with multiple participants in 3 time zones, and I don't really want to think about it, I just ask Claude to do it. Just go to Playwright and set up this meeting for me. That's it. Or like send an email or or write an Airbnb review, which I personally hate doing. But in case if like a host asks me, you can use Claude Code as a personal assistant for those cases. Yeah, that's a little bit on the MCPs. So there are plenty of MCPs out there. And it's just a connector which allows Claude Code to get access to the API and use the response of this API in the context of your conversation. The only problem...
Did we talk about how we get into how we install Playwright here, or the MCP server? Sorry, but I think you explained it a little bit earlier, but I was...
Yeah, you can use
plugins.
Yeah, and this is a specific Anthropic marketplace for plugins. Although there are plenty of other plugins out there that you can use, third-party ones, or just download them from GitHub, plug them here, and they will work for you. And you can find Playwright, not specifically here, but I will attach a link on how you can install it. It's not a problem at all.
Okay.
Then the only caveat with MCPs is that they consume a lot of context. So if you see here on the context side, Playwright has a lot of tools because every single action is effectively a tool. Press key, browse console messages, resize, and so on. And all in all, it adds up to around 4K tokens. So let's say you have 3 MCPs like Telegram, Playwright, Slack, and it's already going to be around 10,000 K context, which is
Can you use multiple agents? Can you know, multiple instances to have, like, for example, I don't know, everything which needs front end information in one instance and everything else in another instance?
Yeah, you can. It's called tasks. And so what you what you can do is split the project MD into tasks allocated to different subagents. And what will happen is that every single subagent would have a different context. And there will be an orchestrator agent which would manage all of those subagents together.
Can you
yeah.
show me the project MD file? I think that's the one after your conversation with going forth and back. Oh no, that's the Gemini thing, right?
No, that's the Gemini thing. Yeah.
Okay, because you know, like for me, it made a huge difference. You know, like lovable, you like 2 sentences, right? And then if you like, we talked last time about BMAT, right? So it creates a lot of context. Yeah, and I always had the feeling that this context which is created, you know, like the architecture MD and, you know, like the epics and everything which is written down, it made it just feel more reliable on the execution. Yeah, you don't have that many bugs or something like that, right? And I wonder, you know, like if you can emphasize with that and how you deal with it. How much documentation do you create before you let agents implement that?
So ideally, the more verbose the documentation, the better. Right, because if a model doesn't have a specific detail or a use case explicitly written, it will come up with one, and most likely it will hallucinate a use case. For instance, a dashboard that you've seen in our project. I mean, I never explicitly asked for it, and I don't even know what cost saved actually means, or whether there is some logic underneath it. It just came up with this feature out of the blue. So yes, there is a certain deviation, and the more verbose and the more detailed your specification is, the less of such hallucinations you're gonna see. So you'll have more control.
Yeah, interesting. So another thing I struggled in the past is actually, and you mentioned it before, is like GitHub, you know, the commits, because, you know, like I created this huge project, and then, you know, like 2 sentences later, I destroyed everything again.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and like, what's your strategy there? Like, how do you do that? Like, you say like release cycle cadence, or like how do you do that?
Yeah. So maybe 2 things. So first of all, every single commit, every single change that is being done by Claude Code is being committed to a dedicated GitHub. We're gonna share the link to the GitHub of this project after the call. Anyways, it's public. Second thing is I typically do have 2 branches. So one branch is the main, and another one, let's call it a stage, right? Where a stage basically is a collection of all of the changes that has been accumulated over a period of time. And when I know that it is sufficient enough for a rollout, I do a merge with the main branch. And then I will have to probably rebuild the project and rebuild the entire container of the project, like Docker or so. It might sound very technical, but keep in mind, I'm not writing a single line of code to do this. I'm literally telling Claude, well, okay, wrap it up, push it to Git, merge it in Git, just roll it out, rebuild the project, that's it. So it's all very like
automatic,
automatic and natural language based. So that's it. So like how you can do it this way, basically. Commit all the recent changes that we did to our branch. It is like, as some people call, a very Git native thing, the Cloud Code
Mm,
itself. It
mm,
creates a Git file, it creates a Git tree, and it writes every single commit, and just pushes it. That it's that simple.
mm,
If you don't like basically a Claude MD imperative, yeah, you can see it's committed. Working tree is
mm,
clean.
mm,
So you can also use a hook for it. And hook is basically a specific action that you want Claude Code to execute
mm,
after a certain thing has happened. So for instance, after tool execution, right? And you can like choose whatever tool that you wanted to execute. It could be a tool like a Playwright or one of the tools within Playwright. And
mm,
once it's done, you can basically ask Claude Code to make a commit for you. I mean,
mm.
it might be an overkill, but yes, there is such the possibility. So you can customize it in whichever way you want, basically.
Interesting. I mean, wow, we covered really a lot of things, right?
Yeah, yeah,
What changed? Like like 4.6. What is the biggest
yeah.
change, or what's the biggest difference for you now?
It's a great question. So I think like the biggest difference for me is how well it handles the context. And the longer the project, the more it can sustain attention and not really cut corners.
Mm,
With 4.5, the problem was it started off well, but
mm,
then the longer the context, the bigger the change and the bigger the scope of your project, the
mm,
more narrower the focus of Cloud Code became. So
mm,
it
mm,
started optimizing for some local things
mm,
and completely ignoring the larger architecture or even the larger UX of the project.
mm, mm,
Just focusing on very small, like minor details.
mm,
And Opus 4.6 is pretty good at that, to be honest.
mm,
I'm really surprised. And
mm,
but still, there are multiple shortcomings that I think important to outline. So the first shortcoming is pixel perfect design.
mm,
Yes, the project that we've shown is simple.
mm,
However, and it spins out pretty decent boilerplate
mm,
projects with good
mm,
looking UI.
mm,
However, if you want to really be specific, you would have really hard time setting up Cloud Code. That's
mm,
why I'm very insistent on using Playwright. It's gonna save
mm,
you hours of time. Secondly,
mm,
it really uses a lot of REM.
mm,
It's a very memory intensive application. So I have a VPS with 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it consumes easily 4 to 8 gigabytes in
mm,
one sitting. So
mm,
you sometimes have to prompt it to be memory cautious and
mm,
to allocate the tasks in such a way that would not basically overload your system,
mm,
especially if you're running a server, right? And three, you always have to keep a balance between how hard you want to go for solving a task, how nuclear you want it to be. Do you really need to go full agentic on solving a simple UI problem?
mm,
And how do you solve a more complex tasks with real agentic team instead of just a shortcut? So
mhm,
those three things are important when you're vibe engineering. So it's important to proactively manage them.
mhm. No, like this is all. It is fair. I mean, like I'm a product manager too. Like
Yeah,
I'm not an engineer. Yet, like I also managed to build applications which run fine. But
yeah,
like everything we talked through today feels more towards the engineering
yes,
side of product management.
yeah,
What are the applications in product management for you, or do you use it also like agents in product management?
yeah. So maybe two things. So one is what I'm most excited in trying is using synthetic users.
Mm,
So when you can create, or basically, I wrote an article in my Substack,
mm,
which is a guide on how you can create a synthetic user. And synthetic
mm,
user is basically a description of a persona. let's say you have 10 of those synthetic users, and you can basically throw your project onto those 10 synthetic users and test whatever hypothesis that you have. And there is actual research that if you structure your synthetic user in the correct way, then you can get almost 85% of accuracy compared to a real human control. So that is an exciting thing to really try. So you can not only build your projects if you come up with some idea for a startup, but you can test them with proxy users, per so to say.
I had huge arguments with Sebastian this week about
Yeah.
synthetic users.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Probably requires a separate session.
Probably yes, yeah, because like I totally understand the idea of having a digital twin, right? So you have real world insights, and then you like you have an AI which acts like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that asking the AI coming up with a persona will work and give you any insight. I'm just like I'm an opponent of that. I don't think that this will create value, because when you do user research or in interviews, you want to have the specifics and you want to know the unknowns.
Yeah, so it's a great point. So maybe two things to add here. It depends on what type of user research you're doing. So if you really want to validate an idea with a yes/no scenario or with some basic commentary, I think like synthetic users could be a tool. But if you really want to do deep discovery, nothing replaces real human, for sure. And secondly, it really depends on how you structure the synthetic user. So there are multiple methodologies that kind of improve the level of accuracy, like Ocean methodology, where you specify the persona, like the age, the behavioral patterns, and so on. So like we're moving in the dimension where it becomes possible. And second thing is like tinkering with large arrays of data. I think what I like about Claude Code is that it's very persistent. If you have a huge CSV that's multiple megabytes, or you have like dozens of those CSVs, and you really want to make sense of them or find patterns in noisy data, you would not be able to do it anywhere else, to be honest. If you just load the file into, like, I don't know, ChatGPT, it will simply kind of break, because it's not able to consume that amount of data. But Claude is very persistent, and it's very fast and data analysis.
Great. Already 6 o'clock. So if you watched until now, thank you for watching. You can leave questions below the video. We will for sure answer them. We will also post a link to the GitHub repo, right? And I don't know, Mikhail, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can
LinkedIn.
reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can subscribe to my Substack. It has like Corporate Waters, substack.com. It has all my emails and contacts. So
yeah. So this was really technical today. Yeah, if you want to incorporate more AI in your product workflow, check out the Product Masterclass. We have an amazing program to help you there. And yeah, beside that, well, thank you very much for sharing. It was really, as always, really fascinating. And Mikhail, September, October, do you come to Germany?
Yes, we'll see you there.
Yeah, so we have the Just Product Conference, 16th of October here in Munich. And Mikhail will be in person if you want to meet him in person, and that will be a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, would love to catch up. So thank you for hosting the event, Thomas.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing everything so openly, and yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, and see you next time, right?
All right. See you guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.